We on Fire Sports Podcast, The Spot, season number 4, episode number 29. And yeah, man, I know it's been a minute. I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. And man, hope you guys had a great weekend, man. We had the NBA showcasing the All-Star weekend. And boy, I got a lot to unload, man. Unload on the NBA All-Star game, man. NBA is on a slippery slope, man. And I'm going to start here first. Congratulations, first and foremost, man, to all the guys that made the All-Star team. I mean, at the end of the day, the NBA has been under a lot of scrutiny, as far as the ratings, as far as, obviously this All-Star game format and just the changes that the leagues have done over the last couple of years with Adam Silver. But first, I want to commend just the guys that made the All-Star team, man, especially the first-time guys like Victor Wembanyama, so forth, making their first NBA All-Star game. And, shout out to the city of San Francisco. Looks like it was a good event overall, just the Bay Area. They hadn't had an opportunity to have an All-Star game, man, since the wonderful year of 2000, which a lot of people remember. Vince Carter in the slam dunk contest in 2000, man, and it was a great look, just for the Bay back then, and it was great for them to bring it back. Steph Curry being the ambassador of the All-Star weekend, man, and great to see the local guests, and recording artists, man, such as my man E4O, got Too Short in the building. Raphael Sadiq I saw out there, man, from Tony. So it was good, man, just for them to encapsulate just the whole vibe of the Bay. It was a good look, and ironically, it was TNT's last run hosting the All-Star game as, they out of the basketball business going into next season. And so it was a good look for them, man, just to kind of showcase the last All-Star game for the network as it switches over to NBC, as well as ESPN will be in the picture just in regards. But let me get right into it, man. And, first, I'll just start off with, just my thoughts across just the slam dunk contest and three-point contest. And first and foremost, man, congratulations to Tyler Hero. Also to my man Mac McClung winning his third consecutive slam dunk contest. First time it's been done in NBA history. And, I'm just like everybody else, man. At the end of the day, man, I want, some of the all-star level players, man, to compete in the dunk contest. It's like putting a gun in the back of the NBA players, man. And I've definitely lost interest in even just thinking that these guys would even compete. And I'm just going to go ahead and acknowledge the elephant in the room, man. These guys are just spoiled. These guys are, paid tremendously, which I'm not adverse to with them getting the bag. Because at the end of the day, it's a trickle down from just the owners getting billions of dollars. I mean, at the end of the day, just like any other job, man, you got to pay your employees, man, if you're getting, billions of dollars, especially with these television contracts and so forth. So I'm never going to be mad at just, the players actually getting the bag, because I'd rather them get a nice chunk of the money because they're the talent, they're the entertainment. And so, but what's happened is that just like in any other, landscape, is that once you start paying people, man, to quote the late, great Marvin Hagler, man, former middleweight champion of the world back in the 1980s, man, it's kind of hard getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning, man, when you go to bed with silk underwear on. And so I just think that those guys, man, they have no interest in competing in that. First and foremost, a lot of them feel that the season should be shortened. And so I just think that it's just a sport mentality, and I think it's trickled into the ratings. You look at the National Football League, who is ratings king in the sporting landscape, and they kind of represent, the everyday person. Meaning that at the end of the day, man, if they get nicked and they get hurt because their contracts are not guaranteed, they're going to go out there and play some football, man. And so at the end of the day, it's more of a team dynamic in the sport of football. And so I just think that that's why they're ratings king. Obviously it's a shorter season, so, it's kind of easy to get geared up for the games and so forth. But that's the reason why they're beating the NBA, and I'm not sure if the NBA will ever get it back. I'm not sure if they ever get it back. From the standpoint of that, especially too with a lot of people out here hurting and so forth, just on the economic level, people just don't want to see spoiled dudes out there just giving a half-ass effort at the end of the day. I mean, I think it's un-American, to be quite honest with you. And so Back to, the skill competition. Like I said, man, Mac McClung, he did an outstanding job in the dunk contest. To me, it was entertaining. I know a lot of people were, just mad that, the stars didn't get a chance to, or step up to the plate and get in the dunk contest. And my thing to that is, why we keep asking? At the end of the day, it's kind of skating towards, the NFL situation with the Pro Bowl that got, canned a few years ago, and they go to, obviously this flag football situation. And I just think at the end of the day, when you go into All-Star Weekend, you had obviously the showcase on Sunday, which is the NBA All-Star Game in itself. And it's a situation to where you want to see the best players just go out there and compete and have a good basketball game, man. You want guys to play hard. You don't want to see a lot of cherry picking. That's no different than you going to your local basketball court, man. You put your time out there to get on the court. You just want guys to play hard, man, while you're out there on the court and just have a competitive basketball game. And I just think that's what the fan base want. And we're not going to get that anymore because I just don't think the guys care like that anymore. You have people pleading, for them to show more effort. And at the end of the day, they refuse to do so. So at the end of the day, they're heading down the slippery slope of being canceled, just like the NFL Pro Bowl got canceled a few years ago. And, for the new format, you had the 14 format, 8 players, each team. You had the rising stars, getting in their situation to compete on Sunday. I thought it was straight trash. And I can't be mad at, Adam Silver from this viewpoint, is that he's trying his best, just like a guy at the circus. He's trying his best to keep people entertained during the All-Star Weekend, just in regards. I mean, the players started this, and so, as his job as a commissioner, he's going to try to come up with ways for guys to go out there and compete and for it to be entertaining at the same time. I thought the whole thing with, Kevin Hart and Mr. Beast and all of that, it's cool, but it reminded me of going to the circus or something, man. And at the end of the day, I think that people just want to simply see the best players in the world simply compete and have a fun basketball game. And now I'm going to move forward on to another topic and another thing about the All-Star Game that I thought was distasteful. Just the whole situation with LeBron James. At the end of the day, LeBron James, he didn't play in the game. And he showed up at All-Star Weekend the day before. He complained he had a foot and ankle situation. I think this guy knew he wasn't going to play in the All-Star Game once he got announced as an All-Star. And I think, at least about a week or so ago, I think it was determined in his mind he wasn't going to play in the game. And so I think at the end of the day, it was selfish as hell from a viewpoint of just let another dude take your spot, man. At the end of the day, you'd have been in 21 All-Star games, dude. I mean, at the end of the day, let another guy rock out. Let Norman Powell rock out. Let another guy from the Western Conference rock out and get his first opportunity to play in an All-Star game, man, and give him, just the notoriety that he deserved from having a good season so far. And so I thought it was completely selfish. And one thing I do blame the NBA for is for allowing this guy to take a team picture in street clothes. And we all know, people, especially my OGs that go back to David Stern being the commissioner of the NBA, ain't no way in hell David Stern would allow an NBA player that's voted to the All-Star team to take a picture with other All-Stars in street clothes. Ain't no way. And so that kind of moves me forward to Adam Silver. I think that at the end of the day, he's became buddy-buddy with the players. I think that player empowerment, yeah, it was a good thing. But at some point, you got to pull the reins back a little bit, especially, too, at the end of the day, the owners or the governors, as they call them now, they're the ones cutting the checks. They're the ones cutting the checks at the end of the day. And so I just think that, Adam Silver, he got buddy-buddy, with the players, and he got burnt. And that's just like anything in business. A lot of people don't like doing business with friends. The reason why is that it get to a certain point where you got to make hard business decisions, and your friends or buddies may not like that decision that you make, but it's straight business. And I think that at the end of the day, Adam Silver got burnt by the players just in regards, and it's a slippery slope. As my man Samuel Jackson said on the movie Juice, man, they slide down a razor blade into an alcohol river. And so we'll see what the NBA do moving forward just in regard to this situation. But I just thought it was low class by LeBron James to show up, like I said, take a picture in street clothes. Don't get at least suited up. We know you're not going to play. But one, you held another person out from getting your spot to play in the All-Star game. Two, you came in street clothes. So at the end of the day, people want to anoint LeBron James and the greatest of all time. Boy, stop. at the end of the day, man, you got to have some kind of respect for the league. And I heard the comments with Draymond Green, calling the NBA boring. He right on that. And those who are OG of the show know I don't see eye to eye with Draymond Green a lot of the time, but I agree with him in this. The game is boring, and I think that at the end of the day, though, that blood is on the hands of the players. I think that the league changed a couple years ago, especially with Steph Curry. I think that Steph Curry is an outstanding talent. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a tremendous person, on and off the court. But I think he changed basketball, and I think it's now treated into maybe for the worse. Because there's only, one guy, that can shoot at the level that he can shoot at, and that's him. There's other great shooters in the league, don't get it twisted. But at the end of the day, it's changed the whole caveat of basketball as a whole in the NBA, and I think they're paying the price for it, especially in the ratings. We'll see what this thing do moving forward, man. But that's my little look across the NBA All-Star Weekend, man. Once again, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate you. Yeah. We on Fire Sports Podcast. The spots. All right, I hit you guys up with my thoughts across the NBA All-Star Game and All-Star Weekend, which they didn't get rave reviews across the board. I think everybody just was feeling a certain kind of way about, what we saw, man, especially with the All-Star Game on Sunday. So I got a special Big Five. This is my Big Five NBA All-Star Games that I've watched over the last, say, 40 plus years. So I had to hit you guys with a nice little Big Five, and I'm gonna hit you with the All-Star version of my Big Five. And coming in at number 5. At number 5, man, I got the 2001 NBA All-Star Game. If I'm not mistaken, this game was played in Washington, D.C. And, man, it was an epic game. A bunch of Hall of Famers in this one, from Tim Duncan to Allen Iverson to Kobe Bryant to Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, it was just laden, man. Kevin Garnett, just a lot of Hall of Famers in this All-Star game, man. It was a competitive game, and a lot of people thought that the West, Chris Webber, can't forget about C. Webb, too, for the Sacramento Kings. But, a lot of people thought coming into this game, man, that the West was just going to run the flow with the Eastern Conference, man, and they came out in this basketball game. They had the lead, especially in the first half. And then in the second half, man, the East got on one, man. And shout out to Allen Iverson, man. Him and Stephon Marbury, they just hit the go button, and they was able to come back. I believe they was down by 21 points in this basketball game, came back in the second half, was able to knock off the Western Conference, which a lot of people felt it was an upset at the time. And, Stephon Marbury, man, this probably was one of his best moments in the NBA. Was with the New Jersey Nets at the time. Yeah, they was in Jersey at this point in time back in 2001. And like I said, man, him and AI, man, just got on one, man. Was able to bring the East back single-handedly to knock off the Western Conference, which was heavily favored in that basketball game. And then at number 4. At number 4, I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm gonna be biased on number 4, man. Because number 4, I got the 1988 NBA All-Star Game. Played in my hometown, literally in my neighborhood in Chicago. Got what a lot of people call the Michael Jordan All-Star Weekend, man, as Mike won a dunk contest against Dominique Wilkins, which is arguably one of the best dunk contests of all time, especially on a competitive level, man. Him and Neek was on one. But we had the game on Sunday, and this was a game as well, man. You had a whole bunch of Hall of Famers, from Magic Johnson to Isaiah Thomas and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Doc Rivers actually, was an all-star in this game. It was a homecoming for him, as well as Zeke, Isaiah Thomas. Mark Aguirre was on that team, man, for the Dallas Mavericks. He's making a homecoming. And like I said, you had Bird, McHale, and, Parrish. And, it was just a nice little slate, man. Like I said, it was Hall of Famers across the board. And Mike put up the 40-piece, man. I mean, he was just on one, man. I never forget the oop he caught in that game, a one-handed oop tomahawk style, man. And it just was not only a great all-star game, it was a competitive game, man. And I just think that this is what, fans, especially the OG fans, this is what they miss about the all-star game, man. A bunch of Hall of Famers in the building, everybody on one, man, and it was exciting to see. Can't forget about Chuck. Charles Barkley played in this game, Moses Malone. And so, like I said, it was a nice little caveat of talent, man, across the board in my hometown of Chicago, man. I can't never forget this, man, because the neighborhood was on smash, just being a little kid at the time, man, just trying to hang out outside of Chicago Stadium, man, just to see if I can see one of the All-Stars. And, man, it was a treat for me and a big-time deal. So I got the 1988 All-Star game coming in at number 4. At number 3, this one, man, is more sentimental for me, man, and I had an opportunity as well to be in the same town as this All-Star game, and I'm talking about the 2003 All-Star game here in Atlanta. And, man, if you was either in Atlanta, from Atlanta, or came down to Atlanta, man, in 03 for the All-Star game, man, the city was on one. The traffic was on one, man. It was just a great event, man. Me and some of my homeboys, man, we had a great time just across the city and just all the events. And ironically, this was Michael Jordan's last All-Star game, man. That's why it's so notable for me. I'll never forget, man, him hitting the fadeaway jumper, man, towards the end of the game. And then Jermaine O'Neal messed it all up, man, fouling at the end of the game, and the East was able to lose this game, man. But it was a treat, man, just to see, Jordan for the final time in an All-Star game, man, just being in the same town, man, and just a nice little farewell for MJ, man. And the West was able to knock off the East in this basketball game, but it was a good, exciting game, man, and it was a great weekend. So at number 3, man, I got the 2003 NBA All-Star game, man, coming up in that number 3 spot. At number 2, this is an All-Star game, man. If you're an OG, man, a lot of people forget this All-Star game, and it was exciting as can be. And I got the 1987 NBA All-Star game played out in Seattle, Washington. And I just remember, man, first being geeked up, because this was actually Dr. J's last NBA All-Star game. Dr. J, man, one of the stewards of the NBA, man, still a super OG, man, and just, the first really big basketball player that I had ever heard of being a kid, man, just hearing his name ring across the playgrounds, man, being a shorty with my dad, going out and playing at the parks. And like I said, it was his last All-Star game. You had Jordan, you had Magic Johnson, you had Isaiah Thomas. I'll never forget Ronaldo Blackman, man, hitting those 2 free throws, man, at the end and sending it into overtime, man. And this was a competitive game. This was probably one of the most competitive All-Star games I can remember up to date. And I'll never forget, man, just the performance by Tom Chambers, man. Tom Chambers, man, this guy, man, was a replacement, a late replacement to the All-Star game slate, ended up winning MVP, and he was on one. At the time, he was playing for the Seattle Supersonics, so he was a hometown guy. And, man, boy, did he show out, especially with all that talent that was out there on the floor at the time. But never forget this one, man. Like I said, it was one of the most competitive All-Star games that I can remember up to date, man. And you guys can definitely check that out on YouTube, man, because that 87 game was a straight classic, man. So I got 87 coming in at number 2. And, man, number 1. This was an All-Star game, man, that a lot of people will remember for a lot of reasons. A lot of, good reasons, a lot of sad reasons. 1992 NBA All-Star game for me comes in at the top. This game was played down in Orlando, Florida. And this game is most notably known as the game that Magic Johnson came back to the NBA for that moment, man. Magic, obviously his career ended in 1991 with the Los Angeles Lakers, man, and, him, catching HIV. I mean, it was a worldwide thing, man. I know a lot of my OGs remember where they was at when they heard the news. I know I was, walking home from school. And, one of the old heads just, spit game in my ear like, man, Magic Johnson got HIV. I just never forget that, especially when my Bulls coming off, taking on the Los Angeles Lakers in the 1991 NBA Finals. Now, obviously, most people know Magic came back in 96, man, for a little cup of coffee for the Los Angeles Lakers, in 1996. But a lot of people thought, man, at the end of 91, man, this man's career was over and virtually his life was over. The NBA allowed him to come back in the 92 All-Star game. He got voted in by the fans, and boy, was this a moment. I mean, Magic was on one, man. Just never forget, just all the stars, obviously, and just, the great players in the NBA, man, coming to just show their love and appreciation for Magic Johnson before the game tipped off. And Magic, he looked, definitely appreciated. He looked like he was very, very nervous. But once the game started, man, Magic was on one, man, especially at the end, hitting those big-time threes, man. And I just never forget my man Dick Enberg, man, just the famous announcer for NBC back in the day, hitting the oh my. Man, was that a moment, man, for not only the NBA, man, but basketball fans across the world, and definitely Magic Johnson and his family know it was one of the highlights of his very storied career. And so, yeah, that's my NBA Big Five, my NBA Big Five All-Star games, man, that I've seen over the last 40 years or so. And so, man, once again, man, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. We on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot. Welcome back. And before we get out of here, man, we got to talk some National Football League. It's once again, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles winning Super Bowl number 59. Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts. Congratulations to the whole organization. I know the Philly fans at the parade, man, they were straight on one, hitting the GM, Harry Roseman, in the head with a beer. That was just crazy, to say the least. And, he kept celebrating, man. He kept celebrating. A couple people, unfortunately, was shot during the whole celebration for the Philadelphia Eagles, man. And Philly's a wild town, man. It's a passionate fan base across the board up there in Philadelphia. But congratulations to them once again. There's been a lot of talk, can this team, repeat? And is this the birth of another NFL dynasty? It's hard to say. In the NFL, man, it's very, very hard, man, to win multiple championships, as we saw, last year with the Chiefs able to repeat. And it's the first time we had a repeat champion over 20 plus years. And so it's hard in the National Football League, man, to repeat. And so I do think that the Philadelphia Eagles, they're the most talented team in the National Football League. I said that going into, the Super Bowl and into the playoffs, is that they got the most talent across the board. I think for them, most important thing for the Eagles, man, is that they have 10 of 11 offensive starters coming back, so the offense will basically be back intact. I think that Brandon Graham, I don't think him on the defensive side, I don't think he'll be back. We might have seen the last of Brandon Graham, man. He's an outstanding player. I do think that, he's a borderline Hall of Fame candidate. Just had a great career up in Philadelphia for them. And so I just think across the board, man, for them, it's just really about avoiding injury next season. It's just about them just not getting a big head. Saquon Barkley had an outstanding season, over 2,000 yards on the ground. I just can't say that enough, man, just for a guy that, New York Giants, they just didn't want to pay this guy. And, NFL has transitioned to more so a passing league over the last couple of years. But I think Saquon Barkley single-handedly, man, has brought the running back position back in the NFL. So congrats again to the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see if they're able to maintain, their kingdom on top of the NFL world for next season. So we'll see about that. Another interesting tidbit, man, that was just very, very interesting is that, you guys have heard at this point, is that the New York Jets said they're moving on from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, man, 40-year-old quarterback. I think that last season, he had a pretty decent year. If you look at his stats, I think that, they wasn't shabby as far as the statistics is concerned. But, it's just really about, does he drive winning? And last year, I think that the New York Jets, they had enough talent to, get themselves into the playoffs, and just the defense just fell off a cliff. I think this was a defensive unit that a lot of people had pretty decent hopes about coming into the season. But last year, man, they fell off like a bad habit. And I just don't think that Aaron Rodgers, he's that force multiplier like that anymore. I do think he still can play quarterback in the league, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes now, because I think that the Jets, them bringing him in for that 2-year experiment, if you'd have told me that the Jets wouldn't even make the playoffs in both years, I would be surprised. Obviously the first year he was out, due to injury, but, I thought the Jets had a chance at getting into the playoffs this year. I didn't see them really as a Super Bowl contender like some people in the tri-state area believed. But at the end of the day, the Jets, feel like, it's time for them to move on. They brought in Aaron Glenn, the new head coach of the New York Jets. And, they basically, as Aaron Rodgers said out his own mouth, is that if they didn't win that last season, that everybody was going to be out of there. And yeah, everybody is out of there. From the head coach to the general manager, Joe Douglas, also to Aaron Rodgers, they all out of there. New York Jets to try to turn another page. They got a whole situation up there, man, with the quarterback situation for the Jets. Not sure what direction they're going to go into. They might see a situation where they may trade up in the draft, man, to try to get them a guy. But, not sure, how that situation may go. I know for Aaron Rodgers, it's just a lot of speculation of where he may land up. Shall it be the Los Angeles Raiders? Should it be the Tennessee Titans? I do think that list of teams is very small, but I do think that Aaron Rodgers can still play in the league as a quarterback. But, as far as his career is concerned, as far as, getting another Super Bowl championship for him, I don't see that happening at all. And it's just interesting, man. I just kind of, research back and looking at quarterbacks who turned age 40, just kind of give you guys just a little tidbit. Think about Peyton Manning. At Peyton Manning, when he was 39 years old, that was his final year in the National Football League. We also, too, had Drew Brees. By the time Drew hit 40, I think his last good season was at 40. Tried to come back the next season, with the New Orleans Saints. And I just think that at the end of the day, just the beatings from over those, 20-plus year career had took a toll. And he just wasn't the same guy. And so, we've seen, a very, very short list. I remember Warren Moon back in the early 2000s being 41 and 42 years old playing in the NFL. But, he wasn't the Warren Moon from the 80s and the 90s that we all know. So I just think that at the end of the day, Father Time is undefeated. It's Tom Brady, the most closest example, being 45 years old, man, and going out, winning the Super Bowl, the year before his final season in Tampa, made the playoffs in Tampa. But, that was his last little run. And so the NFL is a physical sport. It's not like basketball, man, where you just run up and down the court. You have your little injuries. But in the NFL, man, they hitting. And so we'll see what Aaron Rodgers do. I just think that at the end of the day for him, this may be his last run. This may be it for Aaron Rodgers. We don't know. So definitely, once that decision is made, whether or not he'll be back in the NFL or retire, it's definitely a Hall of Famer. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. A lot of people think that he's the best thrower of the football they've ever seen. I disagree with that. I think Dan Marino is the best thrower of the football we've seen in the National Football League as far as just a pure passer. But, he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer, man. I do think that these last couple years and just the aura around Aaron Rodgers is definitely staying his career to a certain respect. But I think at the end of the day, this man is still a Hall of Famer. And so we'll see what Aaron Rodgers do moving forward. Back to the NBA tip, man. The NBA is back in the fold, man, as they had the All-Star weekend and the All-Star break. So there's a lot of teams jockeying up. One team that caught my eye in the Western Conference is them Denver Nuggets, man. They hot as a firecracker right now. And Jamal Murray, fresh off, a week ago, having 55 points in the game. I think he's the key for the Denver Nuggets, man, trying to move forward through the NBA Western Conference, which I think is going to be some great basketball coming down the stretch. I think teams are going to be gearing up, in the West just to kind of jockey for that position. I don't think seeding really matters. I think it's all about matchups when you talk about the Western Conference. I think in the East, I truly believe it's a two-team race. I think it's between the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I just don't see any team that's, better than those two teams currently right now. I think at the end of the day, Boston trying to repeat, and they're a deep team. But I do like what Cleveland did, especially bringing in DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks. I think he's a big-time acquisition for them because I think they do need another wing defender. I think they're a little bit small, and we saw that in just a couple times that they faced off Boston this season. So we'll see. I obviously can't forget about Oklahoma City. Right now, they got the best record in the league. But a lot of people think they fool's gold. And like I said, I still have my reservations about this team. They're a young team. They're an athletic team. But I just think that at the end of the day, you got Chet Holmgren. He's been nicked up. They don't have a lot of depth behind him. And I just think that that's going to be a question mark going into the NBA playoffs, man, when they eventually get there. And so the NBA, like I said, is ratcheting up, man. We'll definitely see, across the National Football League coming up. We got the Combine coming up in the next month or so. Definitely you got, the Tennessee Titans sitting at the number 1 spot. Word on the street is they're trying to trade out that number 1 spot. I do think that there's been a lot of talk about, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, where they will fall. I think both these guys obviously is going to fall within the top 5. I just think at the end of the day, if I had to pick between the two, I think that Cam Ward might be that guy. He has a very strong arm, man. He did a good job down at the University of Miami. He had a good season. Broke the all-time touchdown record, in the history of NCAA. And so we'll see. And so we're definitely going to get into that once the combine heats up. We'll see what that do moving forward. Well, first and foremost, man, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. Don't forget to check your boy out, man. I'm definitely, making appearances on the Weekly Dog Sports Betting Podcast at Firebox 2300 on YouTube. You can definitely check your boy out on YouTube as well at We On Fire Sports Podcast. Also, too, we on Twitter at We On Fire Sports. So we out here, man. And like I said, I definitely appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. We On Fire Sports Podcast. The spot.